Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Drama is back on the menu going into the upcoming season, with Drazah explaining the beef with Simp and the FaZe guys at the World Championship last season. But also the pros have officially voted, and it now has been confirmed, the top 10 players that they believe are currently in the CDL. Is there even a world in which the top 4 here could all have been on a team after this past off season? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Last and final call pretty much for signing up to Breaking Point Stage 1 Fantasy. This is Ben J. Nassim's team. Honestly, Ben's been killing it lately. I think he won the last one, to be honest. And this, again, is a very good team. It's I'd love to say it's not a good team, but it's a good team. So he's got 2 of the guys that I got, Clayster and Scrappy. Then he had, what, $13 left over to spend. I went for Brack and Simp as my pair of 2, thinking that Brack might deliver the goods and hopefully Simp will as well. I think his is probably, like, slightly less risky there, because Skies, I think, is a great pick for New York, and then Drazah and LA Thieves. So, you know, we can see a lot of trends here, really, with the guys that are picking their teams, picking almost exclusively AR players, because that is who the meta favors right now. And we'll see that too in a few minutes' time. That, yeah, the M4 is certainly not going anywhere anytime soon. For example, right here, I thought this was really cool. A lot of you guys pointing this out to me. A couple of guys from South Africa getting involved and, you know, just absolutely smoking Zuma here on stream. Thought this was really good, actually, because, you know, I think South African teams, I forget the name of the team, unfortunately, but a few years ago, there was one South African team that was coming over to quite a few lands in Europe and even in North America, and we're having good success. But it's just so difficult from these regions because, yes, the CDL has finally given support to Latin America. That's, you know, Europe, North America, APAC. They've finally given some APAC support. But Europe, as it stands, is just Europe, right? And other esports, you've got EMEA or Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And that's where some other players can come from. And they do have scenes there, like especially South Africa, they've got some very solid players. But unfortunately, just the way the ecosystem is working right now doesn't give too much opportunity for these guys. We even saw last season, a load of players from even Latin America just moving to North America, moving to the US to try and get some good matches to prove themselves. And it's happened in the past with Cruz and even now Pred, right, having to move to the US before he really gets noticed and respected as a top tier player. So hopefully the CDL can continue to expand on this front in the future. Quick note on the spawns, actually, because we have heard this in previous seasons, and now this may or may not be the case, but some people reckon that on the CDL accounts where you can practice and stuff, you basically get different spawns. This was apparently the thing last season as well. No idea why this even happens. Arcitys doesn't reckon it does happen, but some pros think it does, some pros think it doesn't, so who knows what's true. The thing is, though, if indeed on the CDL accounts that the pros practice on, the spawns are different to the regular public match accounts or the regular account that the amateur players use, then if an amateur player and an amateur team wins the qualifier or they get to qualify for the Pro-Am Major 1, like how long are they going to get the CDL accounts on for that Pro-Am to actually practice on these new spawns? So, you know, interesting idea for Panda. Not really sure it actually is the case because some pros seem to think it is, some pros seem to think it isn't, but maybe it's Seacolt at it again. Quick note from Trek as well, because I have no idea how we're like 2 weeks after the CDL Mosh Pit was meant to be released. Still not a thing. Trek are testing fixes and performing some additional tests. Hopefully some updates soon. So, you know, hopefully it's finally going to arrive. It's, you know, very much later than we hoped it would be. But, you know, as long as Trek actually test the fixes and the fixes actually work, because often we see that with some other developers, let's just say, when they test a fix, or maybe they don't even test the fix, they think they've fixed it and they just send it live and it still doesn't work, and then they've got to re-add it to the Trello board right at the bottom of the list of priorities. Note as well on the Mutineers, this is a really big deal, and we're seeing this lately, like a lot of organizations, kind of, you know, sad for a lot of these guys, but we've seen, you know, from Cloud9 lately releasing a lot of teams. We've seen even 100 Thieves, right? They've let go of some stuff over the last few months or so, and Misfits and the ownership, of course, of the Mutineers are doing the same thing, letting go of some of their, you know, video staff. And as Lance says here, today is my last day with Mutineers due to restructuring away from esports. So, you know, and as he says in the replies, clarification, Mutineers ownership is restructuring away from esports. I'm very much open to looking elsewhere in the industry. But, yeah, really interesting statement. I'm obviously wishing the best for these guys. But, yeah, Mutineers ownership, that being the Misfits group, really, restructuring away from esports. Now, this isn't really a massive surprise. A lot of the VC money, especially now we're going into some kind of murky economic waters, is kind of, well, the VC money isn't just open to be grasped left, right, and center, and therefore these teams need to consider diversifying their kind of esports portfolio into creators and elsewhere. Now, they say publicly they are keeping their CDL team, the Overwatch League team, their Valorant team, but apparently it's behind the scenes, it's far from guaranteed, and yeah, growth in these leagues is not materializing as fast as we had hoped. I mean, yeah, like, no real surprise there. We could have told you that one when the CDL started, to be honest, but you know, they pay made the money, they drank the Kool-Aid, was even what Ben Spoon said the other day from, you know, Mayhem and Mutineers CEO. And even as Jacob Ale kind of follows up with here on the Reddit, they've reassured me they're keeping their COD, Overwatch and Valorant teams, but behind the scenes, I'm not so confident. So we'll see what happens here, right? Because if Mutineers want to get out of the CDL, they're going to have to find a buyer. That's really how it is. And the CDL have to agree to it, which is unfortunately what they signed when they signed up for this whole arrangement. But yeah, I don't know. Are Misfits just kind of coming to a sensible conclusion that, yeah, they probably need to be considering other options to actually stay profitable and not so reliant on VC money and, you know, getting this return on their investments, which is probably still a few years away if it ever even arrives? Or are they even considering, you know what, let's just cut our losses and get out of here? But if they do, they've got to find an owner to actually come through in their place. And even United did tweet this out yesterday, probably entirely unrelated, or maybe even implying that they might be considering bringing a Challengers team into Call of Duty for this season. Who knows? But yeah, they did tweet this out, and it's not like this is a 1-year anniversary thing. So yeah, I guess maybe just they were feeling nostalgic on the day or something along those lines. Now, we know that, you know, the M4's been pretty good right now, but this was, and I'll have to share this either at the end of this video or some video in the future, a disgusting clip here from Doug St. Martin. Like, he was absolutely fine with the Vaznev. So maybe Doug is actually back in business here. And even I think Methods is in the replies saying like, yeah, you know what, let's get rid of the Vaznev, right? It's got to go, even though the M4 right now is still the dominant weapon. And even Nature was giving it his props here and saying, you know, actually disgusting. This would have been a great clip even if it was pubs. And this was up against the LAG Academy, arguably the best challengers team in the world right now. So impressive stuff from Doug. There was no doubt about it. But unfortunately, he misses out on the top 10 professional COD players voted by pros. The top 5 are now in. We saw the 10 through 6 the other day. Pridge was 6, kind of surprising to me. But, you know, it's interesting the way they've done this. Basically, it's based on what's happened in the past season, but it's also based on what the pros generally think about these players. Like, you know, how good they are, not just last season, but also in the current state of the game, going into the new title, how, you know, high do the pros rate these players. This is the list they come up with. So CleanX was 10, Arcitys 9, Sib, Kenny, Pred. That was the 10 through 6 that we saw last week or so. And these are the top 5. So Shotzzy is 5th, Dashy is 4th, and then you've got the 3 guys on FaZe. And this is like so absurd, to be honest, that you know, amongst all the pros there to vote the best players, they've got Cell number 1, and you know, I imagine that Cellium is probably the most annoying player to play against in the entire world. They've got him number 1 after last season. He was the MVP, of course. Simp number 2, aBeZy number 3, Dashy number 4. I mean, you know, that's pretty crazy stuff. So 2 OpTic players in the top 5 here, but for OpTic, it's never really been talent that's been their problem, right? It's more mindset and these other factors that have held them back over the past, you know, few seasons, let's say, at times. So, you know, they've got 2 players in the top 5, but yeah, wow, Simp, aBeZy and Cellium all top 3 is pretty crazy to think about, that all the pros voting on this, that's what they decided on the whole. Just to think about that, not only are those 3 on the same team, but also that Dashy, like, they say that Dashy was never an option, right? When Dashy was, you know, going to be dropped by OpTic, or was dropped by OpTic, like, we thought, you know what, getting Dashy to FaZe, that'd be madness. Apparently they were never considering Dashy, but, you know, still, think about it, right? The pros think that these are the 4 best players in the game, and they could have been all on the same team. So, look, we'll see how it goes this season, but it's interesting looking at this because, you know, looking at this, you think, okay, it's a no-brainer, right? They're going to win everything this year, FaZe. Cell, Simp, aBeZy plus Slasher, like, yeah, should be unstoppable. Even Arcitys here, number 9, which is obviously giving him a lot of credit over his previous few seasons, but, yeah, obviously a little bit of difference in just pure raw ability, I would say, compared to the top 3 on this list. So, definitely intrigued to your thoughts on that. Wonder how much that will change this season, because I'm sure a lot of it's based on what's happened last year, but also based on the last few years and since the CDL has really come about. So the top 5 entirely made up of FaZe and OpTic, but you know, does that necessarily mean that much when you compare it to results? Because look, Thieves won champs with only 1 player on this list, and Kenny at number 7, but they were by far the best team in the game at the end of the season. So not all, of course, about raw talent and ability. Now, speaking of FaZe versus Thieves, they are apparently the 2 best teams in the game. That's what we believe. The rumor has it Thieves are the number 1 team in the game. Now, Drazah and Simp had a fair share of drama at the end of last season when, of course, Drazah won the World Championship. There was some drama between them at the start of the season. Drazah says, thanks for the ring, and then Simp says, act like you've been it before, you clown. So clown champion, all that stuff. Now, Drazah explains to Temp on stream last night that there is some beef here, right? It's not like this is just nothing at all, and it's just surface level. Like, he felt like this particular beef was like a pretty deep down beef, that he was very much keen to beat them. So makes things more spicy for next season as well.
It's never that deep.
That's what I'm saying.
Nothing's ever that deep, but it's a little something. It's a little.
Yeah. No, for the chance win, it's that deep. Other than that, it's that deep.
That was that deep for you?
Yeah. Well, like
personal.
It was more like, bro, like, it wasn't even like, it wasn't even that much beef, to be honest. It wasn't even like that. It was just like, it was more that I can't lose than it was I have beef with him type thing. Yeah. I was like, first, granted, it's just COD champs. I was like, you gotta win, but it's like I can't lose to someone who's talking to me. Like that's where I had to put myself in the mindset. Like, nah, these fools. Like I'm locked.
Simp still can't kill me. That's what you were saying.
Nah, I was saying Sim's not better than me.
Especially more spicy, of course, because this is the schedule for this opening weekend. We've got the starting matches tomorrow, so this time tomorrow the matches will be underway over, you know, Boston versus FaZe. Thieves, their first game is up against Vegas, but on Sunday we have a cracking game at 3 p.m. Well, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. LA Thieves versus FaZe. So look, we'll see if this gets massively delayed or whatever, but this is going to be a spicy one, right? Thieves versus FaZe on the Sunday to really much kick off the season. The second match for both of these teams. They couldn't have planned this much better at the CDL. So yeah, definitely exciting stuff. And tweet your thoughts on that one in the comment section below. A couple of things to mention real quick. The Boston Major 2 tickets now on sale. One of the events that I might consider getting out to here. There's a few that make sense. I prefer the East Coast events because they're just easier to get to generally than the ones you know, elsewhere. But yeah, so this is all now, tickets now available, all this type of stuff. So apparently the venue is absolutely cracking. So that I'm sure is going to be a good time. And just to finish out with this from Brian Stats, before I share that monster clip from Doug St. Martin's over against the Los Angeles Guerrillas, KD leaders from the Major 1 qualifiers last year in Vanguard, just giving an idea of which players should be on top, and Cellium was already leading the lines last season, but it was Gizmo and Afro, right, that London team that was having so much success at the start of last year. Probably not going to be the case this time round, but hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
I have the pinch, Sean. I'm pinching your top, hold on.
The top, bro, I didn't know he's top.
Got 3, last one on time, I'm weak.
One shot time.
Get time.
Yeah.
8-2 corner dead. Let's go, Kyle. Flip again. Gate dead. Gate dead. Oh my god, I'm frying these kids.
I'm going double stun. Oh no, I'm back.
Front gate.
Watch him back door. Hey, cross the tail stairs.
I have tall stairs.
Tall stairs. I'm the best in the game, bro.
Back door.
I repeat two shots.
One's back door.
I'm the best in the game! I'm the best in the world, bitch!